Clear away any tools and start the engine and let it start to warm up. Hey guys, welcome back to Justin Nelson's Projects. Today, my malfunction indicator lamp, or check engine light, came on in the Grand Prix. Now, as winter has already started, but happens to be giving us a little bit of a break this week, I wanted to fix this problem ASAP, especially with the fact that on my Grand Prix, the factory remote start system will not engage if any codes are stored in the computer. Being in the Midwest here, I absolutely rely on that remote start to warm up the car before I even put shoes on. If I have time this week, by the way, I'm going to do a video installing a 1996 aftermarket remote starter kit on my 2007 Chevy Silverado. Why? Well, why not? So subscribe if you want to see that shit show. But back to the car. So I break out the old code reader and it showed me a problem I kind of already knew about. My thermostat is stuck at least partially open. Now, most modern thermostats are designed to fail open. Back in the day, sometimes they would get stuck closed instead and your car would just overheat. If it's stuck open, it just simply prevents the car from ever reaching its proper operating temperature. In the summer, this really isn't a huge deal, which is why I didn't bother when I rebuilt the car. However, in the winter, this will affect your heater, as well as not allowing the engine to run at its optimal temperature. Your oil is too cold, doesn't flow properly. Most vehicles run the coolant either at 180 or 195 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's always best to replace the thermostat with the factory recommended version. Don't go with a lower value because you think it'll run cooler. If you're having overheating issues, changing this is not going to fix it. You need to fix the actual problem. Now, on many vehicles, changing the thermostat can be really tricky. It's in an awkward spot, it's buried underneath a bunch of other crap, and you end up making a huge mess if you don't drain at least part of the coolant. On the 3800 engine, standard in the Grand Prix and most W-body vehicles, the thermostat is right on top of the engine. It is also at the highest point in the cooling system, so its housing contains a little bleeder valve, allowing you to easily bleed out any air from the system as it will tend up toward the topmost part of the system. Lucky us, right? Well, before we get started, of course, make sure the engine is cooled down. I can't stress that enough. Also, when you buy the new thermostat, it may or may not come with a new rubber gasket. If not, make sure you get one of those as well. You don't want to reuse the old cruddy one. So, of course, we removed the beauty cover, and we take care to replace that oil filler cap that holds it down to avoid dropping anything down in the valve cover. Now we can see that the thermostat is right underneath the throttle body connector. I find it easiest to pop that connector off and tuck it out of the way. You just pull up on that little gray tab and it pulls right out. Now for the trick that applies to this specific engine and possibly others. First, go ahead and have your 10mm deep well socket, ratchet, and a short extension handy, and have your new thermostat, this is the old one, but have your new one ready with the gasket already around the lip. With the thermostat oriented upright, that is with the spring at the bottom, the gasket should taper downward. So make sure it's on the correct way. So have everything ready. Now we're going to just pop the cap off the reservoir just to allow air to flow freely. Now remove the radiator cap. Then screw it back on about maybe one full turn. With this style of radiator cap, this allows fluid to flow freely into and out of the reservoir rather than requiring 15 pounds of pressure when it's completely closed. With that done, remove the bleeder valve from the thermostat housing completely using the 10mm deep well socket. We're not taking the top part of the bleeder off at this point. Just remove the whole assembly and set it aside. Then, holding a thumb over the hole, squeeze that upper hose again and you'll hear coolant being forced into the reservoir. Now, let go of the bleeder opening and the hose at the same time. This will suck air into the system. Plug the hole again and squeeze again, and so on, repeating this several times. You'll see the level rise in your reservoir about an inch or two above where you started. And now, at this point, you should have mostly air at the top of the cooling system, right where we need to open it up. From here, we want to work a little quickly to prevent any fluid from coming back up. That's why we've got everything already set up. So tighten the radiator cap, remove those two bolts that hold the thermostat housing, and there should be no fluid loss. Having your new thermostat in hand, quickly pop the old one out using a screwdriver if necessary, and make sure the gasket fully comes with it, and then place your new one inside and make sure you seat that gasket evenly. Now put the housing back on. Go ahead and thread that bleeder back in by hand and start both bolts by hand also. You want to start them by hand so you don't cross thread them. Then go ahead and snug both 10mm bolts and the bleeder. Do not over tighten these bolts, especially the brass bleeder. Now that this is done, ensure that the radiator cap is snug. You close that reservoir cap, clear away any tools, and start the engine and let it start to warm up. At this point, I like to crack the bleeder just until I hear a little bit of air coming out. This requires a 7mm socket or wrench. You should start to hear air coming out, and eventually you'll see some steam. And finally, once it's really warmed up, some fluid will start to dribble out. At that point, tighten the 7mm bleeder. I can't stress enough, do not over tighten this. Just get it barely hand tight with a small ratchet or wrench. I like to go for a bit of a drive, keeping an eye on that temperature gauge just to be sure. And then when I get back home, crack the bleeder one last time. Let any air or steam come out, but as soon as you see fluid, tighten it back down, and you're done. All you have to do now is put the beauty cover back on, make sure there's nothing under the hood, make sure everything's tightened down, close her up, and now we just got to deal with that check engine light. I want my remote start to come back. So I went ahead and cleared the computer with the code reader. If you don't have a code reader, you can usually disconnect the negative battery terminal, wait about 2-3 minutes, reconnect it, and that should clear any codes. If that doesn't work, find your nearest local chain parts store, and they'll usually come out and do it for you. So that is, in my opinion, the best, cleanest, and easiest way to change the thermostat on the 3800 V6, or really any engine with a similar setup. If you like this video and you watched this far, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you're into projects, I do cars, electronics, 3D printing, you name it, so consider subscribing. Check the description below for ways you can support the channel directly if you really want to see more and better content from me in the future. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.